Hello and welcome to the Mark IV Honda CRV, or I should say my Honda CRV, because this has been my daily driver for about a year now, so I think it's time to give a good old honest review on it. Now, just in case this channel isn't a dead giveaway, I love cars and I've been lucky enough to own some really quite special, soul-stirring machines. But the problem with them is they often come with a slightly anxiety-provoking delicateness and often quite an exorbitant cost. The CRV is the absolute inverse of that. If a Ferrari is a wild night out in the town with the morning fear after, the CRV is like a dose of therapy in response. So let's start with the reliability, because that is what these cars are renowned for. Now, some of you slightly longer term viewers might recall I actually had a Mark II Honda CRV as well. Now this thing, it became completely uneconomical to repair. It was scrapped basically. But before we done away with the car, we conducted our own little experiment. We shot at it, we rolled it, we crashed it. We done everything we could to try and kill this Mark II Honda CRV, and we just couldn't do it. The thing survived everything that we put it through, and honestly, it kind of feels like the Mark IV's got that same kind of indestructible DNA. In the last 10 or 12,000 miles, which is what I've covered on this car, almost 80,000 miles total, but they've not all been me. I've not even topped up the oil. I've literally put fuel in this car and that's been it. It feels really tough, just like the Mark II did. Now to drive, it's pretty much everything you could ever want it to be. Nothing more, nothing less. If you need to get from destination A to destination B in comfort, safely, potentially with your family, carrying a whole load of stuff, and it's near 600 litres of class-leading storage, it'll do that 365 days of the year, absolutely effortlessly, even if there is a bit of snow on the ground if you get the four-wheel drive version. Now, one thing about the drive that I do need to commend specially is just how smooth these cars are. I've had other passengers comment on it as well. It's got an uncanny ability to just smooth out bumpy roads, and honestly, it's one of the most comfortable cars that I've ever driven, and I don't say that lightly. Also, in terms of refinement and squeaks and rattles and vibrations and such, this feels like a premium car. It is absolutely light years beyond my old Mark II CRV. Now here is the overwhelming sense I get when I drive the Mark IV Honda CRV, and it's that there's a whole host of things Honda could have done differently to make the car a bit more exciting, a bit more engaging to drive. And this might sound controversial, but I'm glad that they didn't. Let me explain why. Imagine you were a chef and you're preparing a meal that's going to be accompanied by boiled rice. Now there's a whole host of things that you could do to make that boiled rice a bit tastier, spice it up a bit, add different ingredients. But if you did, it would no longer be boiled rice, it would be something else altogether. And some things are not designed to be the star of the show. Like the CRV, it's a tool to do a job. It's a tool to get from destination A to destination B. No frills, no added spice. It just does its job reliably and effectively. Sometimes all the world needs is a bit of boiled rice. Don't mess with a good thing. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not for 1 minute saying it's low quality or it's basic. Even this non-top of the range car still comes with electric wipers, electric lights, parking sensors, a reverse camera for God's sake. If you go for the range top in EX, that's going to add a panoramic roof, heated seats amongst other things as well. Just depends how pimped out you need your CRV to be, I guess. So engine wise, the most common engine when these cars were new was the 2.2 litre diesel. Good engine, but I didn't go for it specifically because sometimes I need to drive into the city centre and that engine is no longer ULEZ compliant. Something to think about for yourself if you're thinking, well, I don't really drive into the city centre. The residuals on a diesel CRV are almost certainly going to be worse than that of the petrol. As ULEZ becomes more and more commonplace, the prices are likely to continue to drop. Just something to keep in mind. The 1.6 diesel came along a little bit later. Now, good engine once again. A lot of people question if it's up to hauling a car of this size around, but it is. It's a strong performing engine and ULEZ compliant if you get one of the later ones as well. The reason I didn't go for one of them was simply I couldn't find a four-wheel drive version in my budget that had that 1.6. So here we are with the natural choice, the 2-litre petrol engine. That 2 litre is a close relation to the 2 litre petrol that you'll find in loads of different Hondas in years gone by, and again, it's absolutely renowned for its reliability. That engine in reality will probably outlive the rest of the car, and in traditional Honda way, it's a time and chain engine, not a time and belt, so there's no change interval on it. Cuts down on maintenance. The diesels are the same, by the way. Now in performance terms, you're not going to be setting any track records, let me tell you that, but certainly it gets along the road fine. Even if you've got 4 or 5 adults in here, it still moves along quite the thing. But yeah, don't be expecting to win many races. Now honestly, I'm kind of struggling to give you things I don't like about this car. I think that's probably down to my mindset. I sort of knew what my expectations were coming into this car, and honestly, it exceeded them. If I were to say one thing though, it's that my old Mark II CRV, it was a lot quirkier than this one. This one's kind of what you see is what you get, but that old Mark II, it had the fold-out table, it had the funky handbrake coming out of the dash. I'll see if I can find a little clip and insert it here. And yeah, it was just the quirkier car. One thing I really did like about that old Mark II CRV as well is it had the spare wheel on the back. Now, to me, the whole personality of the CRV is dependability, and when you're only one puncture away from being completely stranded, it kind of harms that image a little bit. So yeah, I would have liked a spare wheel, but I'm kind of splitting hairs now, haven't I? So given that this is a slightly larger SUV type car, you may well be wondering, I'm going to use this term loosely, what its off-road ability is like. Now I think a lot of this comes down to mindset and going in with the right expectation. Let me share my experience. So I've used this car a ton of times in snowy conditions, just like we've got today. It is Scotland after all, we get a fair whack of snow, and it's yet to get me stuck yet. You can absolutely sail past your typical car, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, BMW, whatever. When it's stuck in snow, they're not going anywhere, you're going to be able to sail right past them. Yeah, absolutely. However, this is where you need to manage your expectation. Do not be expecting to follow a Land Rover Defender through a peat bog anytime soon. It's just not that type of car, and honestly, it's all about compromise again, isn't it? And I think it's a compromise that Honda got right for this car, because let's face it, it's an on-road car and it does the on-road stuff incredibly well, as I've been saying throughout this review. If it had a more advanced 4-wheel drive system, it would almost certainly price it out of the current market which it's in, and if it had a more agricultural setup, like a Land Rover Defender for instance, an old one, then it almost certainly wouldn't be as good on-road. So I think it's all about expectation. Go in with the expectation that it's an on-road car, predominantly, that can sometimes free you from a bit of snow, and you won't be disappointed at that. Now, if you are thinking about buying one of these cars, then click in the top right-hand corner now, because I've got a guide that will take you through all the common problems, show you everything you need to check in order to buy a good one. Don't get stung. So in summary, the CRV is every bit the car that you'd hoped it would be. It's spacious, it's safe, it's comfortable, it's utterly reliable, and it's very satisfyingly unexciting to drive. But with all that money that you'll save not having to repair your daily car, you can go off and buy a Porsche. Now, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and also consider pressing the subscribe button and turning on the bell notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Now, thank you so much. We'll see you for the next video.